Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this exciting episode of Investment Notes, where Ryan and I will thoroughly analyze the market trends once again. Before we began recording our conversation, I was expressing to Ryan how incredibly frustrating it was that the stock market dropped by just under 100 points yesterday. I expected things to be different. Then today, it shot up by over 700 points. Today, the stock market closed at 23,787 points, increase of 753 points noted. The market turnover has been quite dramatic lately, reaching 3,701. I actually thought I wouldn't make any moves today. I initially believed it should work this way. Whenever financial officials, including the secretary, the chief executive, or even President Xi, make public statements, the market typically does not show significant reactions or fluctuations in response to their comments or announcements. But today, before he even started speaking, it was already making all these beep sounds. What does that have to do with him?
I mean, aside from just real estate stocks, what relevance does it actually have to him personally?
The subway.
What time did the subway close today?
Today's temperature was 66. Is the subway important?
Don't talk nonsense.
Hey, you're saying that now, right? Isn't it 66?
Yes, 66.
Wait a moment, let me check. The 66 subway closes at 25 past 7 today.
Today it surged by an impressive 0.3%, quite remarkable, right?
So today we are wondering if the Hang Seng Index is considered a good investment option, right?
Well, it doesn't really matter too much because usually in a strong bull market, right now it's definitely a bull market, we're just following differentiation. If it rises more than 20% from the low, it's a bull market. Absolutely, and in the dynamic property market, positive news tends to amplify the existing good sentiment. Bad news tends to be ignored, and that's typically just how it is. Actually, we can take the time to analyze this matter later on. There are some long-term aspects that I genuinely think aren't ideal. Yes, we'll discuss it later. So, you also mentioned the budget constraints. Actually, everyone has similar expectations regarding affordability, such as those $2 rides. Sometimes when people commute to work during peak hours, they feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of fellow commuters around them, which can be quite a daunting experience. Can we consider adjusting the $2 fare? Those discount measures, are they still applicable, right? Can we utilize them in a more effective manner? Some reports indicated that the door-to-door service might not be available, unlike the option for long and short rides. In short, anyone over 60 gets the $2 fare, but there's a limit of 240 rides a month. 240 rides per month, indeed. If the fare exceeds $10, you will be charged the equivalent of 2 rides.
Yes. Oh, so now they simply count the regular fare after someone takes 240 rides within a single month.
Those age 60 haven't qualified for the senior fare yet. Is that so? Correct, I believe it's 65 years old.
In summary, they should obtain the senior card in order to qualify.
That's right. Exactly. Seniors can enjoy the special senior fare known as the Happy Pass, providing them with great discounts. Yes, then you can enjoy the $2 ride. Yes. Well, this particular detail is not something we typically check in the room for friends to pay close attention to.
No, but speaking of various financial issues and concerns that many people face today, because there's a bit of attention on the cuts to the education budget, and I have 2 things.
I recognize that neither of us really pays attention, but I know I have to start repaying the money I borrowed from the government for school this year. It's about the debt. Haven't I always had to repay it? It was paused for several years. For several years, there were no repayments, and the interest remained frozen.
Absolutely, yes, and the terms of the loan remain unchanged.
Yes, I'm talking about the loan, of course.
Oh, you also have to repay the debt.
The debt seems to have been paused.
But it should be, if I remember correctly, this year.
No repayment is necessary.
I don't need to repay it?
A grant typically means no. No, but the loan has to be paid back, right? The grant doesn't have to be paid back. It's always been that way.
The loan has to be paid back, yes. The loan must be repaid. Also, the grant is related to a higher grade, meaning if you don't meet the qualifications to apply for the grant, that's called a minimum.
Yes, that's the minimum.
But it still has to be paid back. I remember it has to be paid back starting this April. The pandemic caused a necessary 5-year pause without a doubt.
Hey, but even so, the interest rate is extremely low, not even reaching 2%, which is quite unusual for this market. It seems you haven't looked into or checked the matter?
Typically, I hand over my entire salary to my mom so she can manage all my expenses. She takes care of everything and then pays me back afterwards for my contributions. In any case, I remember I have to pay back $12,000 every quarter. Oh yes, but I can't remember the details. I excel in financial management. Yeah. Today, our engaging topic for discussion is finance. Today, we are discussing finance, and during our last session, I briefly mentioned ETFs as a key investment option. Let's take another look at exchange-traded funds, ETFs, and have a detailed discussion about them, as I briefly mentioned last time. However, let's also take a moment to discuss the budget in detail, all right? What specific strategies do you believe could effectively help reduce our growing deficit? Well,
Essentially, it all comes down to living comfortably within our means and discovering effective ways to save money. Yes, that's the fundamental concept of finance. It's absolutely essential and definitely necessary to proceed. If you take a closer look, it also specifically mentions public finances. Look at the government's budget for 2025 to 2026. Yes, it's expected that the government often miscalculates. Well, estimating less income and overestimating expenses happens often. The government's total income is estimated at 659.4 billion, while its expenditure is 822.3 billion. So that means there is a deficit of over 1,000 to 2,000 billion. Yes, speaking of the ongoing deficit issue, by March 31, 2025, the fiscal reserves are projected to have dropped to just over $600 billion. If you consistently have a deficit of $100 or $200 billion each year, the reserves will deplete quickly. The financial secretary has also mentioned that by the year 2027, there will be a projected balance achieved between income and expenditure in the budget. However, to achieve this, they need to control the growth of expenditures, with all administrative, legislative, and judicial bodies, as well as district councils, agreeing to freeze salaries. Additionally, the number of civil service positions will be reduced by 2% each year, aiming to cut about 10,000 jobs by April 2027.
but the police keep hiring people, always saying they need more.
The fire department needs to hire less. If firefighters aren't hired, attrition will occur. Other departments, and indeed the entire civil service team as a whole, need to significantly reduce their overall size. However, I am somewhat concerned because they seem to heavily rely on issuing bonds as a primary strategy to boost their overall income and financial stability. Projects in the northern metropolitan area are beginning to start gradually. So, the basic engineering expenditure for the next 5 years will increase from about 90 billion to 120 billion per year. In the next 5 years, the government will issue bonds worth 150 billion to 195 billion each year. Over half of that, 56%, will be used to cover short-term debts. That is, long-term bonds will cover short-term debts. I understand. Of course, the government insists that our debt to GDP ratio is healthy at 12% to 16.5%. Although we often say Hong Kong is a relatively independent economy with its own metrics. However, it is important to note that Hong Kong does not have its own distinct monetary policy framework. Who sets Hong Kong's monetary policy?
Is it the US dollar?
Of course, it's the US that calls the shots. The Federal Reserve is in charge, right? Because of the linked exchange rate, that's correct.
You startled me, but I enjoy audiobooks.
Why did you get scared?
But if we talk about tonight, I saw earlier that the fiscal reserves have dropped to about 580.3 billion. If we continue to steadily reduce our efforts, we could potentially reach a balanced state by the year 2027.
It's about balancing give and take.
Their numbers have not significantly decreased.
Hey, they expect an increase. So what are they doing to boost revenue? Impressive. If you travel, it's going to be tough. It significantly impacts me as well. This passenger departure tax is tightening up to about $120, and soon it will be $200. Starting this October. Yes, that's right. So, the Talent Capital Entry Program will start charging application fees. Yes, even the forms will require payment. Let's not talk about that. Additionally, the government plans to thoroughly review toll rates on various tunnels and major roadways, reevaluate the fees associated with electric vehicle registrations, and reassess the pricing structure for parking meter fees throughout the area. Traffic violation fines will also be reviewed. They've truly established an ambitious target to consistently increase by 2 billion every single year.
Hey, just so you know, beef jerky now costs $4.80.
320. Oh, 320. So 480 is 400. Speeding a 400. And speeding is tiered. Yes. Obviously, these fees are all for my husband. The 480 series is noteworthy. I recall that the 400 series has a similar feature, but if you find yourself in the restricted area, then you'll need the 450 model. Yes. So in summary, it has levels of 320 and 450. It rises from that point.
But it needs to increase to 200 billion by 2027.
Indeed, it must increase by an additional $2 billion in revenue every single year.
2 billion repeated 3 times.
The Western, Red, and Mountain taxes may each rise by $10. So I guess this is it. So I believe the meter might need to be increased. It seems necessary. Currently, it is $8 per hour, indeed. If the hourly rate reaches $15 or $16, it will be reasonable and beneficial for many. Also, like everyone else, there's another thing to consider, which is the study on charging a border construction fee for departing private cars.
Departing private cars, meaning those with foreign plates?
Private cars departing, including those with cross-border plates and ZMA, ZMB for Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macau. So based on the literal meaning, it fits this definition. I'm unsure about possible exemptions. But if you do the math, if they charge for the Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macau bridge, hey, if each vehicle is charged $200 for a round trip, that's $400, right? They only charge for one way, not for entry. You still owe $300 for the bridge toll plus $200. A meal in Zhuhai costs $500.
Hey, excuse me, can I ask what this $200 is for? The $200 is the exit construction fee, the border construction fee. This thing didn't exist before.
Then they added it now, yes. You have the bridge toll now, right? It's $150 one way. You need to pay another $150 on your return. So if you add the construction fee, that's $200. So that's $500. Going to Zhuhai for a weekend meal costs $500.
So going on a trip isn't really worth it for me. It ultimately doesn't add up in the end. Putting it that way means you have less to express.
Fuel prices remain high, prompting a switch to electric cars, but the additional costs, including a registration fee over $1,000, are concerning. Yes, your next 1500cc gasoline car should cost around $7,000, if I recall correctly. No, it's over 5,000 something. 2000cc means about 7,000. Yes, that's right. So the registration fee is over 5,000. Yes, 5,000.
I recall it being about 3,000.
I added it, right? Before your addition, it was about 3,900. I added it, that's correct. I paid that amount. In various locations where evaluations and assessments are conducted, they often impose additional fees like that. While I'm unclear on the exact amount, I've noticed the revenue increase is approximately that. On the other hand, strict control of expenses still has a long list of items. Yes, but I won't go into details. But the $2 car remains the same, so, well, about the subsidies, you're not sure. Have you ever taken the bus to work? I haven't, I walk, yes.
Well, you know what a good subsidy is, right? Just donate an octopus card and you'll get some money back, yeah.
You must spend over $400 monthly on public transport to qualify for benefits. Now they've raised the threshold to $500. Oh.
But the refund isn't much. I remember it was just a few dollars, yeah, just a few.
You really can't even afford a decent meal with that amount anyway. Funding for universities totals $68.1 billion over 3 years, reflecting a 2% annual reduction.
Yeah, and some schools are really outdated in terms of their overall education system and methodology. For example, my son's school has not collected tuition fees for many years, which raises questions about their funding and resource management. This situation can negatively impact the quality of education and the availability of essential materials and services for students. Oh, right. And then they mentioned that they would be relocating this year, specifically after this semester ends, to a different site for necessary reconstruction, which had already received official approval from the government authorities. It was unexpectedly reduced. Oh, then they said there would be a delay. Where's the funding for the reconstruction coming from?
Is it really from the government?
The government will provide additional funding for their reconstruction. Then the school will also actively raise funds on its own to support initiatives.
They'll just ask alumni for donations.
Wow, how can they raise so much?
Can't you weigh it? Your school should definitely be able to.
Absolutely. Hey there, my friend. There is indeed government funding available, right? The government should prioritize and support education, correct?
The government should serve multiple purposes.
That's right, yes. But in healthcare this time, there's not much action or investment.
Well, there are 2 lines. This year, during the first half, the proposal was made for the establishment timeline of the Hong Kong Drug and Medical Device Regulatory Authority, which aims to enhance oversight and safety standards in the region. It reserves resources to support the establishment of a 3rd medical school.
Yes, that's okay. If these are contributions, just don't cut the medical budget, I think. I'm not entirely sure if there has been a budget cut. Yes, that's correct. However, I haven't examined the specifics in depth. Therefore, it's important for everyone to pay closer attention to the financial budget and all related details. As for tax refunds, you can check those on your own, as I'm a bit too lazy to investigate them myself.
No, actually, no. Strictly speaking, there are no tax refunds available because you have already prepaid your taxes. Yes, you have prepaid your taxes, and the exemption amount for your new tax liability is $1,500. If you have multiple BRs, there's a significant exemption of $1,500.
It seems like the rent for public housing has increased.
Has the rent increased?
There are discussions about raising public housing rent, but you don't live in public housing. Some friends do, right? There is currently only one contract for public housing.
I can't see it for now. Can't see it. Yes, here.
Perhaps it was saved previously, but at this moment I'm uncertain. But can it really increase by 4,000 units?
Public housing is intended to support those in need. Unless you establish certain thresholds, if you possess that capability, you ought to pay, for instance, double or even triple the rent and municipal fees. Now it's currently like that. Your established thresholds are set, and if you exceed the basic rent amount, it will negatively impact many individuals in need.
So, as you consider taking another look, let's return our focus to the Hong Kong stock market. In fact, recently there has been a significant influx of northbound capital that has purchased a substantial number of shares and assets across various sectors. This trend reflects growing investor interest and confidence in the market's potential for future growth and profitability. For example, just yesterday, the northbound capital investment market spent a significant $9.5 billion to acquire shares in Alibaba. Hey, I should definitely turn this on now. Yes, I'm really excited about it. Today, I noticed it go up to 136. What are your thoughts on the current bull market? Let's have a discussion about Alibaba. Do you believe that Alibaba can continue its upward trajectory in this bull market? After all, there have been quite a few positive pieces of news reported lately.
Given the current market conditions, consider 200. Because you have significantly altered the entire scale of the valuation process, originally your valuation benchmark was derived from the collective assessment of its core business operations and performance by everyone involved in the evaluation.
Yes.
So don't worry about Ant Financial. Everyone has forgotten about it. It's basically gone. Right, it's down by 30% now. Now, you should take a closer look at various other businesses, such as cloud computing services, for potential opportunities. And AI, these are the catalysts. In a scenario where artificial intelligence is widely applied across various industries, the demand for robust cloud services is exceptionally huge. Of course, not just any cloud infrastructure will suffice. You can't simply create a reliable cloud environment out of nowhere without proper resources and planning. To effectively leverage this trend, it is essential to establish a robust cloud infrastructure similar to what Alibaba offers in their advanced technology solutions. Its competitiveness in relation to AWS is notably significant and substantial. This tool assists him in continuously advancing within the system. Yes. In a broad AI scenario, he can significantly benefit from the advancements and applications it offers. That's the first point. The second point to consider is his own AI applications, which are also certainly worth the market's attention and scrutiny. These two significant factors alone can effectively support the single-digit growth of his core business moving forward in the competitive landscape. Yes, if the stock market remains focused on his core business, then it's a big problem. His stock price is actually severely overvalued. Yes, he definitely shouldn't even be worth a mere 100. However, in addition to that, this specific segment contributes significantly, accounting for 45% of his overall revenue, while the cloud services are expected to represent approximately 10 to 20% of his total income. This is truly the key factor that is significantly driving his overall performance and pushing his stock price upward.
In the past, people frequently discussed Alibaba, which in addition to Meituan also encompassed the well-known platform Taobao. Taobao is indeed the core business, correct? I noticed that Taobao's overall performance has actually outpaced Pinduoduo significantly in recent times.
You don't need to worry about it. You can just look at Alibaba without needing to consider how much you can't ignore it, as it accounts for 45% of his revenue. So why do I consistently mention the figure of 70%? In the past, approximately 70% included those individuals. What's it called? HEMA, HEMA, Mr. HEMA Sheng, I always forget. Yes, I suspect I have some literacy issues. Yeah, I often can't read, especially when it comes to these things. This business, when combined with various effective life solutions, truly offers valuable benefits. Well, and it's losing money. You're operating at roughly 70%. But what you can access right now is some broad and extensive big data. Yes, that's right. And what you really need to invest in is continuous investment. Constantly burning cash. Yes, continuously burning money. That's right, impressive. So is this really not worth watching at all? Well, I can only say that its growth has been very slow, continually burning through cash while expanding at a sluggish pace. The market will ultimately test their patience and resolve in the face of these challenges. Now, okay, you can certainly say it's been stable for such a long period of time. However, if you add something new and innovative on top, it will likely drive the overall performance to new heights, and that's another interesting story. This is one compelling reason why Alibaba's stock is definitely worth reassessing and considering.
In addition to Alibaba, there is also northbound capital investing in 3 other significant stocks in the market. Tencent invested $2.2 billion, while the 981 Center's investment totaled $5.1 billion. That's right. Then there's Xiaomi. Yes. So let's take a closer look at the 700 series first, because Xiaomi has actually been continuously rising in popularity without experiencing any significant setbacks. However, today, Tencent's closing price has reached an impressive 501.5, which is indeed noteworthy. Then I just checked again, and regarding Tencent, aside from what you mentioned about its fundamentals, there are also ongoing discussions and talks surrounding the healthcare sector in Shenzhen that could potentially impact the company's strategy and operations. Tencent is once again making significant strides utilizing this innovative dicer combined with Tencent's advanced cloud-based dual AI engine to develop an efficient and smart healthcare customer service solution. Do you believe that these can genuinely serve as engines for substantial advancement?
This can't truly be classified as an engine because it would be more accurate to describe it as a complex mechanism that effectively facilitates their various business operations, potentially incorporating and mixing in additional elements for enhanced functionality. For instance, if you provide a brand new computer which has advanced video editing capabilities and you give it to someone like me or Cam, then that's all it takes to get started. Right. But this wouldn't be the engine for our company's revenue growth. However, it can significantly assist you in effectively managing your business on a daily basis.
And can it encourage more people to use it? To simplify the process, you can mix in various other ingredients.
In the long run, there will certainly be positive changes, but I believe there won't be any significant short-term boost solely because of AI. And its overall capacity will actually increase significantly. Absolutely, this is indeed what is crucial. It also connects to the various ways AI is utilized in different contexts, highlighting its overall significance. In any case, we currently have several advanced AI systems available within our company. So can these methods directly lead to generating revenue? Not really, but the point is they can help us process our services more efficiently and accurately.
It's convenient indeed. However, as I mentioned earlier in our discussion, Xiaomi does not offer any crab-related products. Today, the highest number I recall is over 56.
Hey, I'm charging at 56.3, correct?
The highest value is 56.8, but they completely lack any crab products. You can simply let them fly away. However, regarding Tencent, we have discussed this topic previously. The previous peak was approximately around 700 to 715. Yes, around that range. So considering today's market trend, do you believe it has the potential to rise back up to those levels once again? Achieving 600 should be fairly easy.
It's not very difficult. Yes, Tencent. If it's just a yes or no on whether it can reach a new high, then yes, there's a possibility.
Yes. Currently, aside from the question of whether it can achieve a new high, our IPO market has surprisingly been quite hot lately. Just a moment ago, my colleague from Shenzhen sent me a song, and it features a fantastic mic. I won't play it since you didn't turn it on. I won't listen to it. You didn't hear it? At this very moment, my entire brain is completely consumed by the catchy theme song of Mixui's City.
You should definitely turn on the speaker to play it.
Play it for your sister.
I'm unsure who your audience is. Anyway, I'm just telling you to go play it.
So annoying, that song. It appears that the initial plan was for the IPO to be finalized and cut off last night, and currently Musk's net worth stands at an impressive 1.79 trillion. So what concept does this represent? First, I urgently need to find someone knowledgeable to explain this, but it seems this phenomenon has already surpassed Ant Group, becoming the undeniable king of the market. So, that's right, the icy frozen capital is indeed just that.
Yeah, what does 1.79 trillion represent? What does it mean?
It's merely a thought.
Hey, look, you have a ranking. Look, Ant Group has frozen a substantial amount of 1.3 trillion yuan, Kuaishou has frozen over 1.2 trillion yuan, and Bilibili has frozen around 880 billion yuan. To put it simply, China's annual gross domestic product, GDP, is approximately 60 trillion US dollars, reflecting its significant economic scale. Roughly around 60 trillion indeed, so that indicates the monthly GDP is estimated to be around 5 trillion, roughly between 5 to 6 trillion dollars. Here it's over 1.7 trillion. How much is the fundraising amount for each company? How much did they raise? Over 30 billion. We're talking about the whole offering. Only about 3 billion is for public sale in Hong Kong. That's 3 billion raised, which means it's been oversubscribed by that much. Absolutely. It feels like a lot of capital is being tied up, but is it truly as significant as it seems? Hey, I can assure you it's definitely not. Yes, before I came in, I and the colleagues in the back end studied this. Hey, where's all that money? Source of funding inquiries? It's not really adding up. It's not worth discussing this matter. Fiscal deficit for Hong Kong this year? Not even 200 billion. Yeah, how much is your annual fiscal revenue? It's around 5 to 600 billion. So, hey, could you please explain where this 18,000 billion figure comes from nearly? Where are you freezing that money? Actually, now let me introduce our new stock subscription service. First, I will explain the detailed process of acquiring new stocks to everyone. After we receive the applications from our brokerage, well, of course, we gather the funds. Then we take this order's money and directly send it to the stock exchange. Their system is called FANI. Once we send it to the designated location due to the relatively new and advanced system of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, it can process the information quickly and efficiently while also checking for any potential duplicate claims to ensure accuracy. So it can transition to being a publicly traded company in a short time frame, specifically within just 2 or 3 days. So just the stocks, yes. And also manage the processing of the refunds. In essence, almost everything we do is now fully computerized. All right. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange has a beneficial feature that displays the specific fundraising amount associated with each stock listed, which is quite informative. Or what is the maximum allowable fundraising amount? It includes the oversubscription of shares and some derived financial returns generated. There are also additional factors such as the green shoe option, and they will provide us with the relevant figures. Hey, you just need to deposit this specific amount and everything is okay. Yes. So you store this amount here. You don't need to deposit it with the stock exchange. You just need to show it to them. Yes, having this amount is enough. Of course, if you can, then you can. Yes, it's not in your own pocket. All right, so in this particular situation, you can easily imagine that this fundraising effort, along with the recent IPOs in Hong Kong, is discussing amounts exceeding $300 million, right? Okay, I'll assume that. Now, when you finally pay it back, remember that last week no one really knew how it actually reacted? Yes, indeed, when you participate in an initial public offering IPO, even if it is oversubscribed by hundreds of times, your potential return when it comes to the actual IPO and payment process is still about a 50-50 chance. Despite that uncertainty, you're still discussing an investment opportunity that could exceed over $10 billion, correct? To clarify, when discussing tens of millions of shares, you're referring to an amount exceeding $20 billion. Essentially, you require a brokerage firm that can demonstrate this $20 billion, enabling the bank to present it to the stock exchange effectively. Yes, I don't know if you understand. Do you get it? Roughly understood, right? Can you picture it? If you need a large brokerage to come up with over $2 billion, how difficult is that? To show it to you, because the bank has lines and reserves. In the meantime, if they engage in margin trading, retail investors can borrow an amount of 18,000 HKD by initially using just 2,000 HKD of their own funds. This strategic approach allows them to effectively invest a total of 20,000 HKD in the market. Yeah. For brokers, it is quite advantageous because they can earn interest over time and also collect various fees from clients. Consider it carefully. Hitting the A group is genuinely quite challenging. It's hard to guarantee hitting the entire A group. In this particular situation, many investors will likely find themselves categorized in the B group, meaning they will choose to buy several lots of property or shares. They'll enter the B group with subscription amounts over 5 million. Hey, so how much money do you actually need to borrow for covering that specific subscription amount? Money. No. Typically, brokers do not charge any interest on the initial deposited amount. They may not even charge the client interest. However, when the money is returned, it appears in their account and interest is subsequently calculated on the total amount. So you also need to pay for the entire set and the additional fees. For instance, we impose a service fee of 100 HKD. That's right. Here are the game's rules.
But if you don't win, do you still get a refund or not?
You will receive a refund. Right, I remember, hey, no, you said the handling fee is non-refundable, right? But if you win, there's still a commission. Yes, it's a commission based on a percent, correct?
But at that time, I saw that some brokerage firms said they opened up to 108 times bank financing leverage, and they said the minimum is to have one lot of capital, and then if you buy more than 108 lots, you can use the maximum 108 times leverage without needing to borrow from the bank.
Yes, so they might use their own funds, and also they don't charge interest on the initial investment.
That's right. So, hey, no, right now, this particular stock, actually, there will be a significant dark market event on February 28th. Why did you specifically come out to talk with Winnie? Because, hey, I don't really want to actively participate in the event, but I'm definitely interested in placing some orders just to get a little thrill.
Hey, you shouldn't be so gambling prone.
Hey, even though the New Year mood isn't over just yet, I'm curious about your thoughts.
You're absolutely right about one thing, which is that basically just sit tight, don't worry about it for now. When you intend to invest, institutional investors observing this situation will recognize what implications it holds, that the stocks will be distributed. The stocks being distributed means your upside is limited. It will be like this in the initial listing stages. For retail investors, many of whom rely on public funds to make their investment choices and grow their wealth, there's a compelling financial incentive for them to cash out early after the public listing taking place. So how can we encourage more people to buy in? The stock price is hard to rise, but easy to fall. How would institutional investors respond during early listing stages? Are you willing to compete? Of course not. Naturally, you would wait patiently until the fighting settles down significantly before gathering the remnants, allowing me to purchase at a discounted price.
Well, but behind the scenes, we actually need to closely examine how many investors are backing them.
We can't make that statement because when you calculate their fundraising amount, it reflects a typical 9:1 ratio in Japan, which translates to over $300 million in total funding. If you also implement a callback mechanism, then transferring the pigeon to the PO, yes, would allow people to draw from it effectively. The total amounts to 1.6 billion. If you possess goods valued at 1.6 billion and considering the pigeon operates on a 50-50 basis, then if we express it in this manner, it seems that this particular item may not be suitable for trading in the dark market due to its high value and associated risks. It's challenging to determine because the dark market predominantly serves the interests of retail investors.
Yes, but if it's just retail investors, you have to say that if people really got financing, they would definitely want to quickly withdraw their money, settle the accounts, and then get back their locked shares.
Yes, but the dark market won't help you save on interest because the dark market is still listed. It only starts trading later.
However, locking in early means securing it for yourself first, and most people would likely agree with that perspective, yes. So regarding this mixed Bing Cheng situation, you see, aside from their impressive fundraising amount and various other factors, do you actually think that their fundamentals are genuinely sound and strong enough to sustain long-term growth and success? After consulting with several colleagues in Shenzhen, they expressed curiosity and wondered about the reasons behind the initiation of this particular matter. Aside from the theme song, it's because their drinks are really cheap, yes, but it's not that they taste really good, but they are indeed very cheap, like $2 or $3 a cup, just to satisfy your cravings.
But how do you use it? I thought it was cheap, but it's also quite good to drink. But for those that aren't good, just use Bud. It's inexpensive, but the quality makes it not very enjoyable to drink. I believe that it seems much more reasonable,
But what are your thoughts on this matter? Now, what do you believe its average market price might be?
According to the prospectus, it's $6. So what's its gross margin? Based on the prospectus document, it's approximately 30%. For instance, if you consider various fast food establishments, what would you say is the average gross margin? What percentage is it? It's around 10%. Yeah, around 10% is good. If the price is set at $6 per cup, then the average cost of a cup is indeed $6. And with the cost accounting for roughly 70%, this amounts to approximately $4.2 in expenses. For a cup like this one, we typically refer to it as boiled water with a temperature of 4.2, but will it actually provide you with fresh squeezed juice? No, it won't. Yeah, right? Will it give you some high mountain oolong? No, it won't either.
It's just those syrups.
You can only effectively target and appeal to the lower end market segment. So apart from mainland China, you see the most stores in Indonesia and Vietnam. Yeah, that's right.
However, when considering their presence on a global scale, they assert that they operate approximately 46,000 stores worldwide, which includes locations in Southeast Asia and Australia. Nonetheless, for expansion into additional countries, they will need to conduct further exploration and strategize effectively.
It should be included in the prospectus.
Oh, all right. I can certainly check that information again myself if needed. However, their total revenue for 2023, assuming they sell each drink for $6, still amounts to an impressive $20.3 billion.
That's a total of 31.87. They released revenue figures to go public. Now keep in mind, what exactly is revenue? Revenue is what we call revenue. Revenue means that even if your cost per drink is $20 and you sell it for $10, selling 100 cups still gives you $1,000 in revenue. But you're losing money. You're losing money on each cup. So they will not be doing that at this time. So now he buys a cup and makes a little profit. That's it. Revenue involves low profit but high sales. Can we say it like that? We can express it that way.
I can take another look at number 28, specifically examining the situation regarding the silver plate once the market closes for the day. So, yeah. Hey, just to mention a bit more, talking about various aspects of China, let's talk a little about ETFs. Yeah, don't rush me. I can't wait to get into ETFs. It's not just about China, right? After discussing China, this news came out later in the day. So they are saying that regarding China, at least they will inject 55.5 billion USD into the banks. I forgot the calculation, 55 billion, correct? USD, I forgot the calculation. If that's the case, how much is that in RMB?
Or rather, it's 400 billion. Oh yes, 400 billion indeed. No, hey, actually, it's 400 billion RMB. So if we look back at last year's comprehensive reports, they mentioned a figure of 1 trillion for the entire banking sector. Now, it seems this might be the initial injection, and you can consider it as 400 billion being funneled into the banking system, primarily focusing on two major banks. The first one is Agricultural Bank. The second one is Bank of Communications. Yes, mainly these two. Wow, what is this? Is it ChatGPT?
Yes, I summarized it. Because Sen generously gave you so much. It simplifies tasks. Did I perhaps summarize too much?
Oh no, it's fine. As long as it does not involve taking credit away from someone else, I believe it can be extremely useful and beneficial. Yes, exactly. Alright, let me take a moment to discuss this detailed report. Before I arrived here, I typically visited the TV station to participate in various programs and activities. And I have several people inquiring about this breaking news update. They often ask, why are the banks not experiencing significant growth or rising particularly? In fact, the banks are closely following the current market trend and are experiencing growth. But they aren't rising as sharply. We have several different angles to consider regarding this news update. First, where exactly does the substantial amount of 400 billion originate from? Our initial reaction is to question how exactly this money is being sourced or obtained. Actually, according to various financial reports and analyses, it primarily comes from the process of issuing bonds, specifically referring to sovereign bonds that are issued by a national government to finance government spending and obligations. This indicates that the liabilities recorded on the balance sheet are increasing alongside a rise in cash inflow as well. Since the banks are owned and operated by the state government, this process also synchronously enlarges the overall balance sheet as the value of the stocks you hold significantly increases, reflecting a stronger financial position and enhancing your asset base. All right. What does it mean for the balance sheet to grow? Simply put, it means financing. This situation will directly lead to a significant depreciation of the national currency. However, you won't notice prices rising immediately after the announcement. However, if you persist in this behavior, the eventual cost will be significant currency depreciation. There are costs involved. What are the benefits? First, it can enrich the capital, but why enrich the capital? A bank's capital can increase its lending capacity. Yes, indeed, it can lend more money, which means offering more loans. But of course, we know that the biggest problem facing banks in the mainland now is what? Money available but no borrowers. Or banks are often hesitant to lend money because when they do, they must bear the associated financial risk involved. Absolutely, that's correct. Therefore, the loan manager must be held fully accountable for their actions and decisions regarding loan approvals. It's not like the central bank will lend to you. So you can only continue to lend to quality enterprises or those with repayment ability. But these enterprises are not worried about borrowing or funding. They can even borrow using their identity. That's the market in the mainland region. So this money, in a way, does not directly flow into the broader market economy as one might initially expect. The situation has both advantages and disadvantages. However, it feels like you wasted something significant. However, the positive aspect is that you actually did not, in fact, influence the money supply in any significant way, either directly or immediately, which is a reassuring outcome for the overall economy. But it's not that there's absolutely no impact. It's just a gradual, slow impact, that's all. Right now, China is facing a problem, especially with its economy experiencing low inflation or even upstream deflation, with PPI remaining negative, This is clearly a situation characterized by weak consumer demand. Yes, so there's a bit of cushioning in the overall monetary policy to mitigate the negative effects associated with printing excessive amounts of money. So for now, we do not observe a situation of hyperinflation occurring in mainland China, or at least not according to the current data available. However, if your foreign trade activities, infrastructure investments, and retail sales continue to exhibit consistently weak demand, then China's economy will gradually move towards a concerning direction of stagflation, characterized by stagnant growth and rising inflation. So stagflation means that inflation is high, but the economy isn't growing. Yes, that's the situation. Some countries are able to cope with this situation effectively, but the underlying premise is that their currency possesses a high level of trust among investors and the public, similar to how the United States is able to manage its economic challenges successfully. Because, as I always say, for example, what do drug dealers use to settle their transactions? It's always in US dollars, right? It won't be in gold, that's not strong enough. Yes, it's indeed quite poor. Additionally, is the RMB capable of achieving this as well? The RMB has demonstrated resilience against financial shocks over the years. In fact, to some extent, this situation arises because the country has not yet opened its capital account to foreign investments. However, this also implies that its currency is not freely convertible on the international market, which consequently limits its ability to implement flexible monetary policy measures effectively.
However, at this point in time, in various economic aspects, China and potentially some allied countries are indicating they will utilize the RMB for international transactions and to purchase energy resources.
The issue is that it has not opened its capital account. You really have to wonder where exactly do they find so much RMB to settle their debts with you. You need to have complete free convertibility for that specific purpose. But China has been hesitant to open its capital account, fearing the impact of a financial market shock, especially considering that China's political mindset perceives opening up to the world as significantly lowering national security, thereby facing increased risks of manipulation, espionage, and malicious attacks from both foreign and domestic entities. Yes, I understand. Now it finds itself in a difficult dilemma. Now it faces several complex issues that are proving to be quite difficult to manage effectively. Yes.
However, now, as you just mentioned, they are indeed the very first group of banks that have the opportunity to receive this significant investment. After that, the second and third batches are still unknown, right? Is it really 1 trillion? That's still uncertain. On this aspect, I don't know.
That's correct, but we really need to consider one important thing. It's quite troublesome whether you choose to live or not. It's not to the point of 1 trillion deaths, it's about the whole.
It's much less, of course, that's a lot.
Yes, but when considering the overall money supply, it's not truly catastrophic or detrimental. Yes, but it's enough to make it difficult later. During 2008, the fiscal, not financial, not the monetary policy. Fiscal stimulus is talking about trillions. Yes, it has already been considered and thought of as a massive and overwhelming flood.
Oh, indeed.
Then, moving on to point 2, even in this instance, you're injecting capital, specifically injecting funds into the bank's capital structure. It's the first occurrence since 2008. Yeah.
We can also take a closer look at how the economy in mainland China is currently performing and what factors are influencing it.
This situation truly requires careful monitoring. Make sure not to limit your perspective to an overly narrow or micro position. It is often because we frequently limit ourselves. Huawei is experiencing strong domestic demand in mainland China, with a thriving market and satisfied consumers.
However, when examining the data thoroughly, it is essential to consider the specific actions they are taking, correct? What actions are those? Right. I'm thinking about what the terms are.
So, history clearly indicates that printing excessive amounts of money will inevitably result in currency depreciation, but when exactly does that effect typically appear?
Yes. I hope it doesn't appear too soon, or maybe it could be beneficial.
Currency depreciation, right? If the currency depreciates, then you have more RMB and you have more RMB.
What nonsense is that? Hey, I rarely use RMB these days.
Huh? Don't you use RMB to go to Zhuhai?
No, I usually go less now because I feel like my health isn't great.
Is it that serious?
Yes, I'm just afraid that if I go, my health won't be good. Okay, so I want to mention something. We still have 20 minutes left, so let's quickly get into our special topic for today.
Wow, you seem to be making a big deal out of it.
I'm really making a big deal out of this. Why? Because I've really gathered a lot of information for everyone.
Oh, then go ahead. It's all yours.
No, that's not it. I just wanted to ask you, that's all. But hey, do you think this is something special? It's just that you can now buy QQQ ETFs in Hong Kong. Yes, and there's an investment company that has launched Invesco. Oh, a well-known name, right? Yes, a well-known name. Our Invesco actually rang the bell this morning. The big banks are involved, right? So 34534, but there's no fee, just to clarify. 3455, but I'm just looking it up. Did I not open it correctly?
I'm not sure. Sometimes I might open it incorrectly here, but no, you opened it midway, not every day. Hey, actually, there's not much to say. Not really, because it's an ETF. You might not trade much.
Yeah, so how many trades did everyone do today?
Let's check the quote machine. 345351. Just 9 trades today. Not a lot. Discounts are few.
So let me explain a bit, because this one is actually following QQQ for everything. The most special thing is that regardless of the entry fee or management fee, this QQQ is exactly the same as the US QQ.
Is that clear? I want to ask.
How do you know if it's clear?
That means it can be exchanged for stocks, right?
It's not mentioned, but it's being discussed, the management fees, starting this year with a 0.2% interest. Same as QQQ, which is also around 0, just to put it simply, because some viewers might not understand the management fees.
Or taxes, 0.2%. So if you invest $10,000, the management fee per $10,000 is $20 a year, right?
So do you usually trade QQQ? Or do you really buy things like Tesla or others? Because first, I want to ask you about ETFs. What is your investment attitude like? Why did I suddenly start paying attention to ETFs? It's because I've experienced many market ups and downs. Yes, then I started feeling a bit uneasy. So I thought, why not use some money to buy some ETFs and invest? Then I can also earn from stock prices and receive dividends from ETFs.
So why look at QQQ? I want to ask that too.
Actually, I haven't invested in QQQ, but I bought VO instead. And another one, but I want to ask about your investment attitude. Do you think ETFs are worth investing in, or is it a bit complicated?
Well, we need to recognize that most investors, what I'm saying, isn't really aligned with our brokerage identity. Yes, we brokers really want everyone to trade more and earn commissions, right? Yes, yes, yes. But I can tell you that successful investors tend to trade less. Frequent traders, eh? And those who can make a living from it are actually not many. And most of these investors are full-time.
So they really are full-time stock traders?
You're right, they are indeed traders. Okay, that's right. So actually, there are few of these investors. So as amateur retail investors, if we trade frequently, it benefits our brokers. Right. I don't want to lose money on warrants, actually. You can think of them as not harmful products. Right. Or they are not products that cheat you out of money, just using a small cost to buy. But first, let's talk about what its essence is. Its essence is options. What are options? The difference between options and futures. With futures, you have an obligation to fulfill. But with options, there's no obligation to fulfill. You only have the right. So you have the right and the money you lose if you go long. That's your option premium. You paid your option premium, and that's your maximum loss. That's how warrants work. Warrants are for long positions. So there's also a targeting mechanism. If you lose everything, it's just money. This is the essence of supply and demand, right? This is clear, right? Yes. So can ETFs give you 100,000%? Can they give you 20% in one night? Can they give you 30% in 3 nights? That's quite rare. What do you mean? 3 years is about making profits from the upward trend, right? Yes, okay, isn't that very rare? A little bit, it's only worth it unless there are some ETFs available for Hong Kong. So you have 3 times in the US, while Hong Kong has double or even inverse. But if you don't understand the trend, you actually can't do it. So I wouldn't directly compare these two tools. I wouldn't say ETFs are better than warrants or vice versa. They are meant for different scenarios. If you ask me, ETFs are a great tool because I prefer to make some medium to long-term investments. So perhaps some regular investments are also suitable for ETFs.
Yes. No, why do I ask this? It's because, well, maybe you just said that. Just keep boasting, maybe see how skilled you are. But I realize that I keep boasting and I really have a bit of a gambling mentality and I can't help but want to make a move. Then I really want to place a bet, yes? So I think I want to change my little investment strategy a bit. So I thought, why not try to hold off a bit? Maybe buy some ETFs first, like that. But I need to find some that I really think will go up. So of course I have to do some homework. Just like Gary said, experts hold back and don't chase. So I was saying if I were to buy, I wouldn't put it into QQQ because QQQ is already gaining momentum. Instead, I would focus on buying some S&P 500 ETFs. So I found VOO, which is actually a well-known one in the market, and also previously Buffett, I don't know if you noticed, had a bet with a fund manager in 2007. It was about making a 10-year investment with an investment amount of $500,000. He believed that the fund's portfolio couldn't outperform the S&P 500 index ETF in the long run. So after 10 years, it actually proved Buffett right, with this ETF achieving a return of 125.8% from 2007, counting from 2007. Yes, and by 2017, it was already making headlines. Everyone could take a look.
Hey, were you in elementary school in 2000? In 2000, I was in elementary school. I want to cover the dot-com bubble.
Yes, the dot-com boom, there should be some.
Do you know what the tech boom is?
Back then, everyone was into the internet, right?
In the dot-com era, everyone was making websites, right? Now everyone talks about connecting to disk, and I am. Now everyone talks about connecting to DC. Back then, everyone was into DOSing, right? Well, in that era, everyone knew, right? So I mean, the millennium era, it's the millennium era. To this day, how do you think the S&P 500 index is performing, and what about the Hang Seng index?
You see, there's no chart, so I'm asking you to guess.
Hey, S&P 500, who do you think is winning? Well, first guess who is winning. It should be easy.
I mean, if I don't know anything, I might guess the Hang Seng index. Right, but actually looking back, it should be the S&P 500.
So if you know, why are you guessing the Hang Seng index?
I was just trying to lighten the mood.
Okay, all right. Let's estimate the range. It should be the S&P 500.
But in terms of volatility, it's definitely an index. That is the Hang Seng index. Both are indices. I mean, the Hang Seng index volatility, yes.
So what about the range? As for the increase, both are rising, I can tell you. The S&P 500. Yeah, how much is it rising? Guess what the change is?
From 2000 to now, do you think it went from 2000 to 6000?
Almost, is there? Is it? Why is it almost like that? 3 times 3.07 times, that's 307%. The Hang Seng index is 37%. So is it really far apart?
Yeah. And why am I thinking about the S&P 58? Because I have some hidden factors. As some viewers know, we mentioned ETFs in the last episode, specifically about the S&P 500, which I saw last year was around 3,000. But in less than a year, it has already skyrocketed to over 6,000.
Of course, sometimes there are extreme situations. Our guest Chris often tells us that with regular investments, you can actually overcome sudden downturns. Hey, it could drop from 5,000 points to 4,000 points, right? These are risks. So, of course, I don't know about this situation right now, but we cannot ignore these risks. However, the S&P 500 is an index that continuously eliminates the weak and retains the strong. And its average is quite large. It's also well diversified. Yes, its largest weight is definitely in technology stocks, and currently the S&P 500 has the largest weight because of these stocks.
Now, for example, I'm talking about VOO, its top holdings. The first one is already Apple.
Of course, it's in the S&P 500.
Then there's Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Uber, and also Baidu. And Meta, as well as Alibaba and Tesla. But why did I say to buy this one? It's because I've calculated it. This is speculation, not investment advice. It's not an investment, I'm just saying. Because you taught me, besides looking at what they buy as investment targets. Right, and also...
Wow, it's really cheap, 0.03. You just said it's only 0.2.
It's both 03, yes.
0.03 means for every 10,000, I miscalculated, for every 10,000 HKD per year. How much is that? $3, that's right. Wow, you scared me.
Is that so? That's right. Well, I really have heard that. Not only that, but they also distribute dividends every quarter. So that's 4 times a year, and I checked it again. The dividend rate, I'm talking about the dividends. So last year in December 2023, it was 1.64 for this stock.
We call this the dividend yield. Yes, so that's the dividend return. But honestly, it doesn't really matter if you don't look at it.
Is it because it's quite high? Because right now I'm seeing 164. Well, that's 164.
Where's the concept in that? Is the dividend yield high? Hey, usually our benchmarks. So what are benchmarks? As I mentioned, US Treasury bonds, the 10-year Treasury yield is about 4% or so. So anything below 4% we would define as low. Yes. Why is that? Because the US international system is risk-free. So we consider the 4% as the risk-free rate. I don't need to take on risk. I can just benefit from it. But when you buy any stock, you still have to bear some risk. So when there's none, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is the return and the fees. Don't eat into my returns. That's crucial. If they don't eat into it, then yes, you're right. That's a good thing.
I later realized that I bought some funds with management fees of over 1%. Those are funds, right? Yes, it doesn't matter. Active funds.
Yes. You can't directly compare active and passive funds, right? And you also can't compare them in different markets because they really operate on thin margins and high volume. Now, yes, that fund has been to Hong Kong before, but it has since withdrawn. I don't remember its Chinese name. Oh, it has a Chinese name. I think yes, because the Hong Kong market doesn't seem to favor ETFs. Yes, you just counted its top 10 holdings. Well, if you recognize the names, they are all there. And also the proportion of tech stocks, which accounts for about 30%, while the rest is around 10%. It's 500. Yes. Hey, besides this one, are there any other US stock ETFs we can show everyone? Because I'm still holding this one. If you don't like it, there's another one. If you don't like this one, you can also look at SPY, which is more well known.
But why didn't I choose SPY?
It's just that the management fee is 3 times higher.
It's not twice as high. So 0.06, 0.09, 0.09, yes, 0.09 and 0.06 is for the other one. Yes, at 0.09, and I see its investments are actually quite similar to VO, quite similar.
But what's the benefit? It's Sparta, what's the difference?
Oh, the market depth and liquidity are good. The market depth is sufficient.
But VO isn't bad either. Actually, I just see a rank family won't be bad. Rank family stabilizes the market. Yes. So there are also other iShares that you have. So I will choose, in short, I will buy these. Large index ETFs, I will pick some large ones. But of course, there are friends who may not have a US stock account, or they don't like to buy at night. They prefer to buy during Hong Kong trading hours. There are options for that too. Yes, we also provide options for everyone to consider. $3.95, is it?
Yes, Hang Seng only because I'm not. It's correct, but I restricted it. This one is the Hong Kong Hang Seng.
Yes. This is the daily chart. But usually we don't talk about technical indicators. We won't analyze the technical indicators of ETFs. Usually we look at the underlying assets that the ETFs are linked to. For example, looking at the S&P 500 index is usually like this. But speaking of the Hang Seng, the fees for Hong Kong listed ETFs will be a bit higher.
Because it seems like they have exclusive access for now.
So let's talk about the S&P 500 and 0.0 to 0.9, something like that, I remember. So everyone, check the website. Usually, since they have a strategy, Hong Kong and the US are in sync, but there's a time difference. Yeah, and now it's not a 22-hour trading period. So sometimes the price compared to its NA can fluctuate, so you should buy when it dips. There's also the advantage of a low entry fee. Oh, and it's $937 for 100 shares, so you can get in for that amount. That's right. A colleague came over to ask me, wow, my tech stocks are so expensive now, I want to buy when they drop. Are there any good ETFs? And so I said, actually, these ETFs are quite good. But as I talked, I realized, hey, if you buy a few shares, it's still expensive. Not expensive. You can buy one at a time. But anyway, since you asked, let's talk about it in this episode.
But it's about the US stock market.
Hey, it's the tech stocks in the US, right? They're quite famous. Yeah, I think the best would be a full 500-page report, enough detail and variety, right? And also it should be long, with a good track record.
Oh, and also, I have another topic I want to discuss with everyone, but time seems a bit tight.
What? Are you asking me if I should talk about it? How do I decide?
I can talk about it in the next episode.
Okay, we'll talk about it next time.
Because Gary mentioned that VOO is suitable for beginners or older folks, they might not learn much, but I see it differently.
Hey, buying an ETF isn't just for learning, it's about making money. Yeah, you have to pay tuition to learn.
I'm just constantly paying tuition in this bull and bear market like Zhao Zilong, who says he can't resist wanting to enter the field today.
Oh, impressive. Hey, so today is also floating. Hey, well, I think you can just use a limit to allocate a certain percentage of your portfolio for some speculative operations. That's fine. Yeah, but right now you need to ensure that your investments are sound and continuously growing. That's very important.
So I've chosen VOO and the S&P 500.
That's right, but you can't just be reckless, remember that. Yeah, these aren't just stocks to buy and sell. These are truly your investments.
Well, it's about investing regularly every month, or maybe buying in when the price is right, just like people say to buy whenever possible.
Hey, I somewhat agree, but can you really do that? Yeah, that's a question. Like, would people really go buy the big flower garden in 2003?
Exactly, just bought one, right? Bought a few, that's it. All right, well, it's about time. Thanks to everyone. So, in the next episode, there will be many more ETFs to discuss, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks to everyone. Bye.